The Sega Genesis has blast processing. Super Nintendo doesn't. So what's blast processing do?
As the current console generation comes to a close, we can all be forgiven for getting a little bit nostalgic. Remember how special it was hearing those twinkling PS4 tones for the very first time? Ah, yeah, that's the stuff. But as nice as that sound is, it's not quite enough to match the best of the best. Those incredible, memorable tunes that so many gamers heard thousands of times while nervously waiting to see if their scratched copy of Metal Gear Solid would actually load. We're talking about the greatest console startup sounds of all time. In celebration of these often overlooked audio experiences, we decided to bring together 8 of the most memorable for this video, ranked in order of console release date, not in order of preference. Feel free to share your opinion about your favorite in the comments. We're going to start post-video game crash, sorry Atari, at the point when consoles began their great trek toward their modern incarnations. And so our audio journey begins in the mid-80s with the Sega Master System. The Sega Master System is often overlooked, especially by modern audiences that think the Genesis was Sega's first home console, but it had some excellent games and sold upwards of 13 million units. More importantly though, the Japanese version had a seriously awesome boot-up screen. Take a look and listen. These older console computers had substantially longer introduction sequences as they waited for you to insert software, sometimes consisting of entire songs as opposed to the seconds-long intros of later consoles. This thing goes on for almost 7 glorious minutes. We'll have a link to the whole thing in the description for this video. A fine counterpoint to the Master System's long, complex intro, the Nintendo Game Boy boot-up sequence is short and to the point. Simple, iconic, and engaging, the boot-up sound for the original Game Boy left an indelible mark in many gamers' minds. This simple sound was expanded and repurposed for other Nintendo portables down the line, which is indicative of the strength of its legacy. Here's all 3 Game Boy startup sounds. The Sega CD was released in late 1991 in Japan, 92 in North America, and 93 in Europe. We tried to think of a phrase better than totally radical to describe the startup of the USA version of the Sega CD, but there just isn't one. It's unapologetically 90s in the best possible way. Interestingly, the Mega CD startup, the Japanese version, is completely different. Gone is the haunting cyberpunk melody, replaced with a blue sky and a much more upbeat song. We don't like that version quite as much, but you can check out the full songs linked in the description and decide for yourself. The post-Genesis era marked a slow decline for Sega in the console world, but as this list shows, they continue to produce killer startup sounds. Here's a couple of different versions of the Sega Saturn theme, which had minor variations between the American and Japanese systems, and versions of the Saturn produced by third parties including Hitachi, Hi Saturn, and JVC, V Saturn. Startup sequence probably qualifies as the first modern intro, and this style is still used to this day. Aggressive, short, and focused on showing off the technical capabilities of the console. The PlayStation was Sony's first foray into the console market, and it was a doozy. It almost immediately began to take market share from Sega's underperforming Saturn, and even the release of Nintendo's relatively powerful Nintendo 64 barely slowed it down. This familiar sequence is going to bring back a lot of memories for a lot of people. of that is the memorable sound design that combines synthesized pads with a digital chime. These are sounds that are still used all the time in games today, even though audio technology has evolved. The other reason this sequence brings back so many memories for so many is that the original PlayStation had some loading issues. Over time, especially in the first generation hardware, the optical drive would often deteriorate and fail to load your beloved discs. That meant, for a large group of unfortunate PS1 owners, the first half of the sequence would play and then would freeze. Because of these issues, there was often a little bit of nervousness that came with turning on a PS1, and seeing the second half of the sequence meant your game had loaded. And you could breathe a huge sigh of relief. The Dreamcast was Sega's follow-up to their woefully underperforming Saturn, and completely turned around the company's fortunes to make them the hardware powerhouse we all know and love today. Wait, no, it got crushed by the PS2 and was Sega's last console. Bummer. Sad. Though the Dreamcast had its issues, it continued Sega's streak of fantastic boot-up sequences. A red spiral, or blue in the Japanese version, forms on the screen while a wonderfully soothing audio sequence welcomes you in. Isn't that relaxing? Like slipping into a warm sonic bath. The GameCube was Nintendo's follow-up to the N64, and the first of their consoles to use optical media as opposed to cartridges. As the name suggests, it was shaped like a cube with a unique handle and small stature. The GameCube has one of the strangest startup sequences on any console, not only because of the lively and playful sound, but because you could manipulate the experience with a controller. If you hold down the Z button before the GameCube logo comes on screen, you're greeted with a somewhat unsettling monkey and child laughing. Weird. Lastly, if you plug in 4 controllers and hold down the Z button on all of them, you're greeted with some traditional sounding percussion music. Hiding fun interactive Easter eggs inside your console's startup music? That's a very Nintendo thing to do and fits perfectly with the adorable weirdness of the GameCube. The original Xbox boot-up sequence is very sci-fi. It feels like you're witnessing something being created in a mad scientist lab. It was a big contrast to its competition at the time, Nintendo's strange yet charming GameCube and the comparatively chill PlayStation 2 startup sequence. It's effective at establishing the flashy green Xbox brand and gets straight to the point. This is a brand new console like nothing you've ever seen before. So there you have it. 8 of the best console startup sounds of all time, ranked in order of console release date. What was your favorite from this list, or do you think that we left out the true champion of console boot sequences? Let us know in the comments below. And we'll see you next time. Bye everyone.